You ever wondered how to make your first computer? It's actually super easy. It's something that anybody can do. And I'm gonna show you right now how I made my very first computer for just about $0. Now, some of you might be thinking, hey, wait a second. You need at least some money to get started with computing. And that used to be true back in the day when you had to buy all the parts and assemble them yourself. But nowadays, there is a really easy way to get started with learning how to code and build your own computers by using something called a Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi is a small, affordable credit card-sized computer that plugs into a computer monitor or TV and uses a standard keyboard and mouse. It's basically like a Lego for programmers. And there are tons of example projects that you can follow along with to learn how to use this thing. It's incredibly intuitive. You can follow along without having to be an expert at coding. And that's exactly what I did when I first got mine. There are these little plastic pieces called breadboards that allow you to plug various input and output devices into the Raspberry Pi without having to solder anything. So I plugged in a screen, a keyboard, a mouse, and even a little motor to learn how to control it with code. Then I wanted to make something a little more advanced, so I decided to build a robot. And it was actually really simple to do because the Pi has a bunch of built-in features that make it possible to interface with all sorts of hardware. And after experimenting a little bit more, I decided to take things up a notch and see if I could make a fully functional computer out of this thing. So I found this old school 19-inch rack mount server chassis online for about 20 bucks. These things used to be everywhere back in the data center when I worked at a tech company. And then I found one of these old Dell server power supplies online for about $10. Now the plan was to cut a hole in the front of the server chassis to slide the Raspberry Pi through and mount it inside the case with the power supply. I removed the cover from the server rack and used a hole saw to cut a hole in the front of the metal casing big enough for the Pi to fit in through. Then I removed the power supply from its casing, connected the server power supply to it, and screwed it in place using some standoffs and a screwdriver. Next, I connected a ribbon cable that came with the case to the front panel connectors on the Pi. And this allowed me to power on the Pi and have it boot up just like normal. Then I connected a HDMI cable and an Ethernet cable to the Pi and plugged them into the wall and waited a few minutes for everything to load. It took a few tries to get it working, but eventually I got it to work. And look at that, a fully functional computer made out of a Raspberry Pi. Now admittedly it is not the most powerful computer in the world, but it is a start. And the cool thing about this is that now you can put whatever operating system you want on here. I'm running Linux on here right now, but you can run Windows or even Android if you wanted to. And it is also really helpful for cybersecurity applications because it allows you to run different virtual machines on here to test things in a safe environment without risking your main computer. So yeah, that's how I made my first computer. It's actually super easy to do. You don't need to be an expert at coding or have a lot of money to get started. All you need is a Raspberry Pi and a little bit of imagination. If you guys enjoyed this video, check out the next one where I show you how to make a fully functional laptop out of Raspberry Pi. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.